Overcoming adversity is not a slogan you see on some inspirational poster. It's not a cute phrase to make you feel better when things get hard. It is the brutal, unfiltered reality of what it takes to survive when life decides to hit you with everything it's got. Everyone loves the idea of resilience when it's printed in bold letters or shared on social media, but living it is something entirely different. Living it means waking up on days when your chest feels heavy, when your mind is fogged with doubt, when the weight on your shoulders feels like it's going to crush you. It means standing there with the odds stacked against you, and instead of asking, "Why me?" you tell yourself, "Try me." Adversity doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about your timing. It doesn't care that you worked hard, that you stayed honest, that you were kind to people. It will come when it wants to, how it wants to, and it will test you in ways you never thought possible. And here's the thing: most people don't pass that test. They get hit, they crumble, and they stay down because they think the pain is a signal to stop. But pain is not the signal to stop. Pain is the signal to go harder. It's the body's way of saying, this is the threshold where normal people quit. You're not normal, keep going. Overcoming adversity means understanding that hardship is part of the deal you signed when you were born. You didn't get to choose your starting point. You didn't get to choose your advantages or disadvantages, but you do get to choose how you respond when the storm hits. You can either let it drown you or you can learn to breathe underwater. Most people pray for calmer waters, but the truth is, the most capable sailors are made in the roughest seas. You're not going to build courage, strength, or grit by living an easy life. You build it by getting punched in the face by reality and finding a way to fight back anyway. When you're in the middle of adversity, it's not about waiting for the perfect plan. It's about doing something, anything, even a small step forward when everything in your body wants to stop. Progress doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent. That's how you claw your way out of darkness, one move at a time. People think overcoming adversity is about massive leaps of faith, but in reality, it's about refusing to stop taking small steps even when you can't see the end. The mountain gets climbed the same way every time, one step, one breath, one push forward, and let's be clear, you will fail along the way, you will make mistakes, you will take wrong turns, you will feel like you're going in circles. That's not a sign that you're losing, that's part of the process. Every setback is a lesson. Every failure is feedback. Every wrong turn teaches you something about yourself and about the world that makes you sharper and more prepared for the next challenge. The people who overcome adversity aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who learn how to keep standing back up every single time life knocks them down. You have to understand that the mind is your greatest enemy and your greatest weapon. Adversity attacks your thoughts first. It makes you believe that your current situation is permanent. It convinces you that the pain you feel right now will never end. It tries to trick you into thinking you're powerless. That's the real battle, not the external situation, but the internal war between the part of you that wants to quit and the part of you that wants to fight. Overcoming adversity means making sure the fighter inside you always wins. There will be days when you don't want to get out of bed, days when your motivation is dead. That's when discipline steps in. Motivation is a mood, it comes and goes. Discipline is a choice, it stays no matter how you feel. Overcoming adversity requires discipline because you can't rely on feelings to save you. You have to create habits so strong they drag you forward when your emotions are trying to pull you backward. That's how you keep moving forward when everything else is telling you to stop. Another truth about overcoming adversity is that you can't do it by looking backward. You can't keep replaying the things that broke you, the mistakes you made, or the opportunities you lost. The past is a graveyard. Nothing grows there. Every ounce of energy you spend looking behind you is energy you're stealing from your future. The only way you win is by focusing on what you can do right now with what you have left. You might not have everything you started with, but you have something, and if you use that something wisely, it will be enough to start the climb again. There's also a dangerous temptation when you're facing adversity, the temptation to feel sorry for yourself. Self-pity is poison. It gives you temporary comfort, but it kills your strength in the long run. The longer you sit around telling yourself life is unfair, the longer you delay the moment you start changing it. Life doesn't reward the people who complain, It rewards the people who adapt. You can cry about the storm, or you can build a stronger ship. The choice is always yours, and yes, it's going to hurt. Overcoming adversity is not about avoiding pain. It's about embracing it. It's about saying, I understand this will hurt, but I'm willing to go through it because I know what's on the other side will be worth it. The greatest growth of your life will happen in the moments you thought you couldn't go any further. Every time you push past that invisible wall in your mind, you expand your limits. And once you've done that enough times, you stop seeing adversity as a curse and start seeing it as an opportunity. The truth is, the strongest people you've ever admired didn't get there because life was kind to them. They got there because life was cruel, and they fought back anyway. They took the blows, they took the losses, they took the sleepless nights, and they turned it all into fuel. They decided that nothing life could throw at them would be enough to make them quit. That's the mindset you need if you want to overcome your own battles. You can't just survive adversity. You have to use it to become dangerous, so strong, so capable, so relentless that the next time life comes for you, it realizes it's messing with the wrong person. Overcoming adversity isn't a single moment of victory. It's not a movie scene where you suddenly win and the credits roll. It's a way of living. It's a commitment to never letting the worst things that happen to you define you. It's about getting hit 1,000 times and still having the strength to say, I'm still here. Because as long as you're still here, there's always another move you can make. And the more times you survive the impossible, the more you realize there's no such thing as impossible. You will get through this. Not because it's easy, not because you feel ready, not because someone is going to save you. You will get through it because you will refuse to stop until you do. That's what overcoming adversity really means. You win, not because life gave you a reason to, but because you decided there was no other option. Resilience is not some soft feel-good concept that you sprinkle into a conversation to sound wise. It's not a motivational quote you hang on a wall and forget about. Resilience is the raw, unpolished, unbreakable quality that separates the people who crumble from the people who climb. It's forged in pain, pressure, and situations that make most people give up. It's not given to you. You build it through fire. You earn it through struggle. You prove it when life pushes you to your knees and you decide you're not staying there. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It's about facing it head on and refusing to let it define you. You're going to take hits in life, big ones, the kind that knock the wind out of you, that make you doubt yourself, that make you question if it's even worth getting back up. Resilience is the decision in that exact moment to rise again no matter how badly you've been hit. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, it's not even always visible to the outside world. Sometimes resilience is just getting out of bed when everything inside you says stay down. Sometimes it's dragging yourself forward when you can't see where you're going yet. People think resilience is about strength, but it's not just about being strong. It's about being adaptable. It's about taking whatever life throws at you, absorbing it, and then finding a way to keep moving forward. It's the understanding that you cannot control everything that happens, but you can always control your response. That control, that refusal to surrender your will to circumstances, is what makes you unstoppable. Resilient people don't waste time wishing things were different. They take things as they are and turn them into something they can use. The truth about resilience is that it's uncomfortable. You don't develop it sitting on a couch, living a stress-free life. You develop it by surviving situations that almost broke you. You develop it when you're forced to adapt faster than you thought possible. You develop it when the weight you're carrying feels unbearable, but you carry it anyway because quitting isn't an option. And once you've been through that enough times, something changes inside you. You stop fearing adversity because you know you can survive it. That's when you become truly dangerous. Resilience is a choice. You choose it when things go wrong. You choose it when the easy option is to complain, to blame, to give up. You choose it every time you get back up after a loss, after rejection, after failure. It's not something that appears magically. It's a decision you make over and over until it becomes part of who you are. The first few times, it feels impossible. But with each challenge you face and overcome, Resilience stops being something you try to find and starts being something you carry with you every day. It also means being patient with yourself. Resilience doesn't mean you have to pretend nothing affects you. It doesn't mean you can't feel pain, sadness, or frustration. It means you don't let those feelings control your actions. You can feel broken in the moment and still choose to keep going. You can acknowledge the storm while still steering the ship. Resilience is about persistence, not perfection. You're allowed to bend, but you refuse to break. The hardest part about resilience is that it doesn't give you instant results. You can get back up 10 times and still feel like nothing is changing. That's when most people quit. They confuse lack of quick progress with lack of potential. Resilient people understand that the process is longer than they want it to be, but they stay in the fight anyway. They understand that time is an ally, not an enemy, and that endurance often beats speed. Life isn't a sprint, it's a marathon full of unexpected hills, and resilience is what keeps you running when others drop out. There's also a level of self-respect that comes with resilience. Every time you push through something hard, you prove to yourself that you're not as fragile as you once believed. That proof builds confidence. That confidence fuels action, and that action leads to even more resilience. It becomes a cycle, a good one, that transforms you into someone who not only survives hard times but thrives because of them. The same events that destroy others become the very fuel that strengthens you. One of the most overlooked aspects of resilience is how it inspires others. People watch you more than you realize. Your ability to keep moving when everything around you is falling apart can be the very reason someone else decides not to quit. Sometimes your fight isn't just for you, it's for the people who will see your example and realize that they can fight too. Resilience has a ripple effect, and it can change more lives than you'll ever know. But don't confuse resilience with recklessness. Being resilient doesn't mean you ignore reality or pretend the pain isn't there. It means you face reality as it is and still choose to move forward. It means you work smarter when you can, harder when you must, and you never let circumstances dictate your destiny. You bend, you adjust, you learn, but you do not stop. You may slow down, but you never stand still long enough for the world to bury you. Resilience is also about self-belief. You can have the best strategies, the best tools, the best advice in the world, but if you don't believe you can come back from a loss, you won't. Belief is the foundation, and resilience is the structure you build on top of it. When you truly believe that no setback can keep you down permanently, you start to see challenges differently. They stop being roadblocks and start being detours. You don't lose your direction. You simply find a new way to reach it. And here's the final truth. Resilience is a skill. Just like lifting weights builds muscle, facing challenges builds resilience. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. The first few times you're tested, you'll feel like you're barely holding on. But over time, you realize you can handle more than you ever thought possible. Eventually, things that once would have crushed you barely make a dent. You stop fearing life's punches because you know you can take them and keep moving. Resilience doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get better, you get sharper, you get tougher, and eventually you reach a point where life can try to break you all at once, but it won't succeed. Because resilience isn't about avoiding the fall, it's about rising every single time you hit the ground, and once you've mastered that, you become unstoppable. Mental toughness is the invisible armor you carry into every battle in life. It's not about pretending you're fearless or emotionless. It's about standing your ground when fear and doubt are screaming in your ear. It's the ability to take every punch life throws and still keep moving forward. Even when your body is exhausted, your mind is overwhelmed, and your soul feels like it's hanging by a thread. Most people think mental toughness is something you're born with, but the truth is it's something you build, rep by rep, trial by trial, through 1,000 moments where quitting would have been easier, but you didn't. Mental toughness starts in the mind before it ever shows up in your actions. It's about mastering your thoughts so they work for you, not against you. The human mind is a battlefield. One side is filled with excuses, fear, laziness, and self-pity. The other side is filled with discipline, courage, grit, and relentless focus. Whichever side you feed is the side that wins. People who lack mental toughness feed the wrong side. They listen to the voice that tells them to stop when it gets uncomfortable. They let feelings make their decisions for them. But mentally tough people shut that voice down. They act based on principles, not moods. They understand that emotions are temporary, but the consequences of giving up last forever. One of the hardest truths about mental toughness is that nobody can give it to you. You can read all the books, listen to all the speeches, and get all the advice, but until you put yourself in the fire and refuse to walk out, you won't have it. It's built in the moments you're tempted to cut corners and you don't. It's built in the early mornings when you get up even though nobody is watching. It's built in the late nights when you keep working while others are asleep. Mental toughness is forged in the small, consistent acts of self-discipline that compound over time into unshakable strength. The reason mental toughness is so rare is because it requires you to be comfortable with discomfort. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain, inconvenience, or anything that feels like a struggle. Mentally tough people seek it out, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand that growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Every time you push past what feels like your limit, you discover that your real limit is much further away. And every time you survive something hard, you add another layer to your armor. Mental toughness is also about focus. Life is full of distractions, meaningless noise, negativity from others, and the constant temptation to waste time. Without focus, you'll drift wherever circumstances push you. Mentally tough people control their attention like a weapon. They cut out what doesn't matter. They don't waste energy on things that don't push them closer to their goals. They understand that attention is currency, and they spend it wisely. When you're mentally tough, you stop negotiating with yourself. Weak minds negotiate. They bargain with their goals. They say things like, "I'll go to the gym if I feel like it," or "I'll work on my dream when I have more time." That kind of thinking is death to progress. Mental toughness eliminates negotiation and replaces it with execution. You do what needs to be done because it needs to be done, not because you're in the mood for it. That's how you win over the long term, by stacking enough days of disciplined action that quitting becomes impossible. Another key part of mental toughness is controlling your reaction to failure. Weak minds see failure as a final verdict. They see it as proof they're not good enough. Mentally tough people see failure as a lesson, a piece of feedback that makes them better. They expect to fail sometimes because they understand that failure is the price of mastery. They don't let setbacks break their spirit because their identity isn't tied to a single outcome. It's tied to their ability to endure, adapt, and keep moving forward. Mental toughness also demands that you keep your standards high no matter what's happening around you. Most people let their environment dictate their effort. If things are going well, they work hard. If things are falling apart, they slack off. Mentally tough people hold the line. Their standards don't change with their circumstances. If they say they're going to give 100%, they give 100% whether the day is smooth or full of chaos. That consistency is what makes them reliable, trustworthy, and impossible to break. It's important to understand that mental toughness doesn't mean you never feel fear, doubt, or pain. You will feel all of those things often. The difference is you don't let them control you. You acknowledge them, but you act anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of it. Mental toughness is being scared and still doing what needs to be done. It's being tired and still showing up. It's being under pressure and still performing at your best. There's also an element of self-control in mental toughness that most people overlook. It's not just about pushing yourself harder, it's about knowing when to hold back, when to be patient, when to wait for the right moment. It's about not letting your emotions force you into stupid decisions. A mentally tough person can stay calm under pressure, make clear decisions when everything is chaotic, and keep their long-term vision in mind while others are panicking. That ability to stay steady when the world is shaking is a hallmark of true mental toughness. And perhaps the most powerful part of mental toughness is that it's transferable. Once you build it in one area of your life, fitness, business, personal goals, it bleeds into everything else. If you learn to be disciplined in the gym, you'll be more disciplined at work. If you learn to keep pushing in your career despite setbacks, you'll handle personal challenges with more resilience. Mental toughness becomes a way of life. It changes the way you approach everything. Ultimately, mental toughness is about refusing to quit, no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how long the road, no matter how much it hurts. It's about choosing the harder path when it's the right one. It's about understanding that your mind will try to betray you, to convince you to stop, and refusing to listen. It's about doing what weak minds won't do so you can have what weak minds will never have. And once you've built that kind of toughness, you become untouchable. Not because life stops being hard, but because you've become harder. Personal growth is the ongoing battle between who you are now and who you're capable of becoming. It's not a single moment, not some magical transformation that happens overnight. It's a process slow, messy, uncomfortable that demands you leave behind everything familiar about yourself and step into the unknown. Most people say they want to grow, but they're not willing to pay the price for it. They want the results without the discomfort, the wisdom without the mistakes, the progress without the sacrifice. Real personal growth doesn't work that way. It requires you to tear down parts of yourself that are weak, lazy, and fearful, and replace them with discipline, courage, and resilience. Personal growth starts with brutal honesty. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Most people lie to themselves daily. They tell themselves they're doing okay, when deep down they know they've been coasting. They avoid looking in the mirror because they don't want to face the truth about their habits, their mindset, or the excuses they've been living on. Growth begins the moment you stop sugarcoating your reality and say, I'm not where I want to be, and it's my responsibility to change that. That kind of honesty hurts, but it's necessary. It's not enough to want change. You have to act on it. Growth doesn't happen by accident. You have to intentionally put yourself in situations that challenge you, that stretch you beyond your comfort zone. You have to take risks, not reckless ones, but the kind that force you to adapt and learn. The comfort zone is where dreams go to die. If your days are predictable and safe, your growth is already slowing down. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more your capacity expands. Personal growth is not always exciting. In fact, it's often boring. It's the repetition of small daily improvements that add up over time. Reading when you could be watching TV. Training when you could be sleeping in. Saying no to things that waste your energy. Choosing discipline over indulgence. Most people won't see what you're doing behind the scenes, but those quiet, consistent actions are what build a stronger, sharper version of you. One of the hardest lessons in personal growth is that not everyone will come with you. As you change, some people will resist it. They'll remind you of who you used to be, not because they care, but because your growth forces them to face their own stagnation. You'll have to decide if you're willing to lose people in order to gain the life you want. Growth is lonely sometimes, but the alternative, staying stuck to keep others comfortable, is far worse. Another part of personal growth is learning to take responsibility for everything in your life. That doesn't mean blaming yourself for things you can't control. It means owning your responses, your choices, your effort. Weak people outsource their problems to circumstances, luck, or other people. They wait for someone to fix things for them, but when you take full responsibility, you become powerful. You stop waiting and start building. You realize that even if it's not your fault, it's still your responsibility to deal with it. Growth also means facing failure head on. Failure is not the opposite of growth, it's the fuel for it. Every mistake is a lesson disguised as pain. Every setback forces you to develop new skills, new strategies, new levels of persistence. If you're not failing, you're not growing, because you're not pushing yourself far enough beyond what you already know. The most successful, fulfilled people on the planet aren't the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who used it as a stepping stone to mastery. Personal growth is tied to your mindset. If you believe change is impossible, it will be. If you believe you're stuck with the personality, habits, and abilities you have now, then you've already lost. Growth-minded people see themselves as a work in progress. They know they can improve, adapt, and evolve as long as they're willing to learn. They see challenges as opportunities, criticism as feedback, and time as an ally. They don't cling to who they were 5 years ago. They're too focused on becoming who they need to be 5 years from now. To grow, you have to develop self-awareness. You need to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, and your blind spots. You have to know what fuels you and what drains you. You have to be able to step outside yourself and evaluate your actions objectively. Without self-awareness, you can't make intentional changes. You'll just repeat the same mistakes and call it bad luck. You also need discipline. Growth is not about occasional bursts of motivation. It's about consistent effort over time. It's easy to work hard when you're excited. It's much harder to work hard when you're tired, uninspired, or distracted. Discipline keeps you on track when motivation fades. It turns growth from a goal into a lifestyle. Every day you stick to your commitments, you build proof to yourself that you're capable of change. That proof compounds into confidence, and that confidence pushes you to aim even higher. Personal growth demands that you challenge your beliefs. You can't grow if you keep thinking the same way you've always thought. You have to question your assumptions about yourself, about others, about the world. You have to be willing to admit you were wrong, to learn from people who are ahead of you, to let go of ideas that no longer serve you. Stubbornness keeps people stuck. Humility lets them evolve. It's also important to understand that personal growth is not just about adding, it's about removing. You might need to let go of habits that sabotage you, relationships that drain you, environments that limit you. You might need to drop parts of your identity that feel safe but keep you small. Growth is a process of shedding as much as it is of building. Every time you let go of something that no longer serves you, you make space for something better. And the most beautiful part of personal growth is that it's never over. You will never reach a point where you're finished. There's always another level, another skill to learn, another weakness to turn into a strength. This is not a curse, it's a gift. The journey never ends, and that means there's always a reason to keep going. The moment you stop growing, you start decaying. Staying the same feels safe, but it slowly kills your potential. In the end, personal growth is a choice you make every single day. Nobody can force it on you, and nobody can take it away once you've built it. It's the decision to face yourself honestly, to demand more from yourself than you did yesterday, and to keep evolving no matter how uncomfortable it gets. It's about becoming the kind of person who looks back in 5 years and barely recognizes who they used to be, not because life magically got better, but because they decided to get better. And once you commit to that process, your life stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you create. Emotional strength is the ability to stay grounded and unshaken when life tries to tear you apart from the inside. It's not about never feeling pain or sadness. It's about feeling them fully and still making the choice to keep moving forward. People often mistake emotional strength for coldness or indifference, but that's not what it is. True emotional strength is built on courage, self-control, and the willingness to confront your feelings without letting them dictate your every action. It's standing in the middle of chaos and still having the clarity to decide your next move. Life will hit you emotionally before it hits you physically. Someone will betray you, disappoint you, reject you, or abandon you. You'll lose people you love. You'll face uncertainty, and you'll encounter situations where nothing makes sense. Emotional strength is the shield you carry in those moments. It doesn't stop you from feeling hurt, but it stops you from being destroyed by it. You can cry, you can break down for a moment, but you don't stay broken. You pick up the pieces and you rebuild yourself from the ground up. Most people avoid developing emotional strength because it's uncomfortable. It requires you to face your own weaknesses head on. You have to admit when you're wrong, when you've been too dependent on others for validation, when you've been avoiding your own healing. You have to stop numbing yourself with distractions, substances, or shallow pleasures, and instead deal with the real source of your pain. That's hard. That's why so many people run from it, but you can't outrun the work forever. Emotional strength comes from doing the inner work, no matter how ugly or painful it gets. being emotionally strong doesn't mean you're emotionless. In fact, it means you feel things deeply, but you know how to process those emotions without letting them consume you. When you're hurt, you don't lash out recklessly. When you're angry, you don't burn every bridge in sight. When you're sad, you don't stay in the dark for months, convincing yourself it's permanent. Emotional strength means you know when to sit with your feelings and when to rise above them. You use them as information, not as chains. The truth is, emotional strength is tested most when you have every reason to give in to weakness, when life has knocked you down, when you feel betrayed, when you're grieving. It's tempting to surrender to bitterness, resentment, or self-pity. That's the easy way, but emotional strength chooses a different path. It refuses to let temporary pain become a permanent identity. It doesn't deny the hurt, it transforms it. Every painful experience becomes a lesson, a source of wisdom, a tool for future battles. Emotional strength also comes from boundaries. Weak people let anyone walk over them because they're afraid of conflict. They say yes when they should say no, and they stay silent when they should speak up. Emotionally strong people set boundaries not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. They know they can't be everything to everyone, and they refuse to pour themselves out for people who only take. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out, they're gates that only allow the right people in. Another part of emotional strength is learning to stand alone. There will be seasons in your life when you don't have support, when people don't believe in you, when you feel completely isolated. If you're emotionally weak, those moments will crush you. But if you've built strength, you know how to keep going without applause, without recognition, without anyone telling you you're doing the right thing. You learn to trust yourself so deeply that even when the world is silent, you still hear your own voice telling you to keep moving. Emotional strength also demands that you stop living for the approval of others. When you care too much about what people think, you give them the power to control you. One bad comment, one bit of gossip, and your confidence crumbles. But when you're emotionally strong, you understand that other people's opinions don't define your worth. You live by your own standards, not by the shifting opinions of the crowd. You know who you are, and you don't need constant validation to keep going. Resilience is a key part of emotional strength. You will face rejection, heartbreak, and failure, but you'll bounce back faster each time. The first time life hits you, it feels unbearable. The second time, you remember you survived before. The third time, you've already built a mental and emotional blueprint for recovery. That's the compounding effect of emotional strength. The more you face, the stronger you get. Eventually, the same storms that once broke you barely move you. Another truth is that emotional strength makes you dangerous in the best way. It makes you immune to manipulation because you're not controlled by your insecurities. It makes you hard to intimidate because you've already been through worse. It makes you impossible to break because you know how to rebuild yourself. When you have emotional strength, you can walk into any situation, conflict, loss, uncertainty, and still operate with clarity and purpose. You build emotional strength by choosing the hard thing when it's the right thing. You build it when you have a meltdown but get up the next morning and keep going. You build it when you refuse to let one bad chapter define the whole story of your life. You build it when you stop hiding from the truth and face it head on, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. Every single time you endure something you thought would destroy you, you prove to yourself that you are stronger than you realized. Emotional strength isn't loud. It's not about shouting to the world that you're unshakable. It's quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. It's the calm in your eyes when you're in the middle of a storm. It's the ability to respond instead of react. It's the inner peace that comes from knowing you can survive anything because you've already survived so much. It's power without arrogance, confidence without needing to prove it to anyone. At the end of the day, emotional strength is about self-mastery. It's about understanding your emotions, respecting them, but not being ruled by them. It's about knowing that pain is part of life, but suffering is a choice. It's about carrying yourself with dignity, even when life tries to strip it away. And once you've built that kind of strength, you stop fearing the next storm because you know no matter what happens, You'll be able to stand, rebuild, and keep moving forward. You've been through storms you didn't ask for. You've been hit in ways you didn't deserve. Life has tried to break you not once, but over and over again. But the fact that you're here right now means it failed every single time. You might not have come out unscarred, but scars are proof that you healed. Scars mean you're still alive, and that means you still have a chance to win. Overcoming adversity isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about looking it straight in the eye and saying, "You didn't take me out." Every setback you faced was a test, and every single time you kept moving, you passed it. You might have crawled, you might have limped, you might have moved an inch at a time, but you moved. That's the difference between the people who live and the people who just exist. Resilience is not something you're born with, it's something you forge in fire. Every time life knocked you down, you built a stronger version of yourself when you stood back up. That's why you're dangerous now. Because nothing can scare a person who's already been through hell and kept going. Resilience makes you unshakable. It makes you impossible to control. It makes you the kind of person who can take hit after hit and still get up smiling. Mental toughness is the voice in your head that says, "I don't care how I feel right now, I'm still doing it." It's training your mind to act on commitment, not on emotion. Feelings are temporary, but discipline is forever. Mental toughness is showing up on the days when you have every excuse not to. It's deciding that your dreams are worth more than your comfort. Personal growth is the reward for all the battles you've fought. The person you are now is not the person you were 5 years ago, and that's the point. You have more wisdom, more perspective, more strength. Growth doesn't come from easy days. It comes from pain, from mistakes, from challenges that felt too heavy to carry. Growth is the proof that the struggle was worth it, and emotional strength, that's your armor. That's what keeps your mind steady when everything else is falling apart. It's what allows you to stay calm when others panic. It's what allows you to see clearly when everyone else is blinded by fear. Emotional strength means you don't just survive, you lead, you inspire. You show others that it's possible to walk through fire without being consumed by it. So when life breaks you, don't see it as the end. See it as the moment you start building the strongest version of yourself you've ever been. Let adversity shape you. Let resilience carry you. Let mental toughness drive you. Let personal growth change you. And let emotional strength protect you. You're still here. That means the fight's not over. And if the fight's not over, you can still win.